Virtue story has absolutely fascinated me. I hadn't heard of her for a long time, and I hadn't given her a thought for a very, very long time, except that not so long ago a video popped up on YouTube and it said, what has happened to Doreen Virtue? And I was thinking, I know that name. So I watched the video and then I remembered. Now, during the 1990s, there was this massive boom in the self-help and spiritual industry. And I remembered that Doreen Virtue had become very popular. I wasn't one who followed her. I didn't have a particular interest in her. My main interest was in people like Anthony Robbins, who is a completely different person now than he was then, as far as I can see. But anyway, so that's where I'd heard of her from. And so I was quite interested. I thought, oh, what's gone on here? So I looked into it, and I looked her up on Wikipedia, and then I've since watched 2 or 3 of her videos, and the story is fascinating. So she'd had, from what I can gather, and I could be wrong on some of these facts, but she'd been involved in a carjacking. You know, she could have lost her life. She felt that the angels had saved her, and so she found herself turning to spirituality. She became very, very popular. She created products and sold them. She, gathered followers. And then, from what I can understand, she was going out on tour with other members of the self-help boom fraternity. And over time, it really started to get to her. She said she had to be constantly positive, which she didn't feel. She didn't feel constantly positive. She was told by those around her that she could not show that she had any problems. She had to be positive all the time. And she said that those that she was associating with, say touring with, being involved with at a professional level, that there were a lot of them who had problems and even addictions and bad attitudes, and she became increasingly disenchanted with it all. And I can absolutely understand that. I was always dubious. I've always been dubious of certain aspects of that self-help boom. There are people to this day who became well known then, and even seeing their faces pop up on YouTube, of course they're a lot older, I get a flash of irritation. So my main interest then was more about self-help, self-development, or I was open to spiritual advancement and growth and learning more about it, but Doreen Virtue wasn't one of those people that I followed. It just wasn't my thing. Anyway, so she's turned then to born-again Christianity, and God bless her, she is ranting and raving on YouTube and other places, I would imagine too, and she believes what she's saying. You can tell that she completely believes, she believes that her religion, from what I can see, is the only one. It's not my thing, the relationship that she has with her God is a very different relationship to the one that I have with mine. Very different. So, I think that whatever God is, whoever God is, each of us will have our own version of that person, our own relationship with that entity, if you like. And mine is not full of hell and brimstone and punishment at all. But that's what she believes. And the trick is that if we don't want to hear what she's saying, then we shouldn't listen to her. But anyway, there's been a lot of bitter rantings that I've seen about Doreen Virtue, people feeling let down. But this is a problem, that if we elevate somebody to guru status and we follow them and we invest time and money in them, they at some point may well slip off the pedestal, in which case she jumped with both feet. But at the end of the day, she's entitled to do that. She's entitled to do that. I don't agree with what she says. I it's funny, I've never really agreed with her. I wasn't into what she was saying when she was, a spiritual guru, and I'm not into what she's saying with her religious beliefs. But I'm interested. But here's a very interesting fact. And it didn't surprise me, because I have seen this happen throughout all the years I've worked in the metaphysical arena. I have come across people who always need what I would call a life raft. And so they will swap one big life raft for another. And this is what Doreen Virtue has done, for whatever her reasons are. But I personally know of 2 women who did exactly this. They were very, very big into spirituality, and then for whatever reason, they suddenly switched to born again Christianity. So they needed a life raft, and that one was either sinking or wasn't taking them where they wanted to go, so they switched to that one. Now, in one of these cases, this lady told me, this was her story, she told me that the reason that she quit spirituality, and this wasn't coming from a place of shame on her behalf, it was coming from a place of blame, actually. So she'd gone through a divorce, and her and her husband had a business, and between them, and she'd lost everything. She'd gone from never having to think about what she was spending to having not much money at all and having to raise her kids. And I think she got into pretty low state mentally and emotionally, and she got very much into spirituality and psychics. Anyway, there was one particular woman then that she started to go to, and she was technically stalking this lady by the end. And I've had similar experiences, not coming to my door, but I've had it through phone calls, and I've definitely had it online from people. And she was, anyway, on a Sunday afternoon in a desperate state, hammering on the door of this poor lady psychic who refused to open the door. And this lady was so angry about that that I don't know what happened then, but it wasn't long apparently before she made the transition from spirituality to Christianity. And that was her reason. She felt very let down by it. Now, obviously, looking from the outside in, that's not really the case. But she had to swap that for something. Anyway, she was a lovely lady. She wasn't a nasty lady, don't get me wrong. Very pretty lady, very pretty. And kind. But, that's how she saw life. Anyway, she met a born-again Christian man who also had children. And they got together and were very happy. And they bought a big bus. And they were affectionately known as the Brady Bunch. But it got me thinking about the number of people I've come across who are clearly teetering on the edge a little bit. They're struggling with life emotionally. They can't cope with real life. And so they turn to spirituality. It's almost like a haven for them. Now, not everybody who becomes involved in the psychic and spiritual arena is in that place, but it does tend to attract people who are struggling mentally and emotionally. And people will try and use it as a crutch. They will try and use it as an emotional painkiller. They will try and use it instead of going for psychotherapy. It is the way it is. So as a reader or consultant, you've got to be really, really careful. Yeah, you've got to be careful. But it's interesting, isn't it? So I do wish Doreen Virtue all the luck in the world. I'm not going to be listening to any more because, she's an intelligent lady and she's articulate, but I know we are on completely different pages, and that's absolutely fine. And she's entitled to be what she wants to be. So if you are interested in psychic and spiritual matters, but from a grounded point of view, please subscribe to the channel, because I've had it for years and it's been naff up to this point. It's been inconsistent and it's been naff. But I'm using it as a platform. My intention is to use it as a platform to present or introduce psychic and spiritual matters to those who would like to know more about it, but they're very put off by the drama and the performance and the three-ring circus that often comes with it. So yeah, and somewhere around here, there there will be a video that you can click on. I haven't decided which one it's going to be yet, but whatever it is, click on that video.